Alright, what's up guys? In this video I'm going to be talking about stealth as an attacker from the offensive side, kind of from a pen tester's perspective as well as like a more red team example as well. So from the perspective of a pen tester, stealth is like pretty much a non-factor. It doesn't matter at all. One, I guess, nice thing, or maybe a downside depending on what kind of occupation you're looking for, is stealth doesn't matter as a pen tester. You can go in, be as noisy as you want, as long as you don't bring down their services. Most of the time the developers are cool with it, because to be honest, a lot of times as a pen tester you're testing sort of non-production environments. I mean, there could be some exceptions if you're on a network that maybe doesn't have a lot of bandwidth, then you got to be a little bit careful you don't bring down, but most of that is sort of concerns about denial of service and accidentally bringing down services and stuff of that nature. But as far as actually being stealthy with pen testing, a lot of times they don't mind. And if you guys aren't aware, I'm a pen tester. That's my trade, I guess you would say. So a lot of times, you know, before you start an engagement, the app team has made noted of that you're going to be testing their environment. So it's not anything that you really have to worry about there. But if you're some gray hat attacker, and of course black hat, or if you are a red teamer, then stealth is definitely something that matters to you. So what does stealth actually look like as an offensive guy? Like, what makes something stealthy or not stealthy? Because if you're not really familiar with pen testing or with, you know, hacking, for lack of a better term, in general, you're kind of probably thinking like, well, what the hell does that even mean? What is stealth really? What stealth is basically carrying out recon or pivoting or doing whatever you're doing as an attacker in a way that the victim is not even aware of your presence on the network, right? They're not even aware that you're enumerating them, that you're doing recon on them, or whatever you happen to be doing. Basically, you're a ghost, you know. You're pretty much carrying out your tasks, doing what you would be doing as an attacker, getting information on the victim. Maybe you're looking to pivot, maybe you are pivoting, maybe you're even sending data through the network, maybe you're exfiltrating data, but you're doing so in a way that goes under the radar, avoids the detection of their blue team, of their cyber defense. You know, they're not aware that you're doing all this stuff. So that's what stealth actually is in the context of all of this. So the way you basically achieve that, well, there's a lot of ways you can achieve it, and it kind of depends on what you're doing, right? If you have a shell on a system, the way you do that without being detected is you need to do that preferably in memory, and preferably, most definitely, in a way that avoids any kind of automated detection. But also, when you're actually running commands on the target system with your rooted shell or your user shell, whatever the case may be, you need to do enumeration that doesn't really raise an eyebrow. So you got to kind of think like the defense, you know? The defense has to think as an attacker, and the attacker has to think as a person of cyber defense. That's what's really interesting about this whole area, in my opinion. So yeah, that's something that you have to consider. So for example, if you get a shell on a system, if you're just doing a CTF, just use the default Metasploit port, the 4444, right? Easy. Doesn't matter. Stealth doesn't matter, right? If you're doing a real world engagement, say you're doing something as like a red teamer or something, you get a shell on the system, well, you don't really want to use port 4444 anymore, because that's something that might raise an eyebrow for cyber defense. They're like, why is this non-standard port open on this server? Like, what's going on, right? Why is there a connection back to the system on this port? So instead, you might want to use a standard port. Maybe you use port 443, or maybe a DNS, port 53. Something like that is a lot harder to detect from a defensive standpoint. So in that context, doing that is a lot more stealthy. Now, as far as avoiding automated detection, and like I said, all of this stealth stuff sort of depends on the context of what you're doing. So this is a really complex thing. So I'm really just trying to give you a few basic examples here. But from an automated standpoint, right? If you exploit some kind of service, you have your payload, right? You generate your payload. If you're just doing like they do in the CTF tutorials, and you're just simply using MSF Venom to generate your payload with the simple like default stuff, only encoding it with, even if you use one of the MSF Venom payload encoders, and I hope I'm not getting too technical here, but for example, say you use the Shikata Ganai, which was at one time considered a pretty obfuscated thing. Now, all these Metasploit encoding payloads and stuff like that, they're detected instantly by all this antivirus, right? It's no contest anymore. Even if you encode it like with a bunch of iterations, you're probably still gonna flag. So that's one way that, you know, if you use that in your payload, just know that if stealth is of the issue, you're probably not gonna be very stealthy. You're probably going to be detected. So in that case, what you would need to do is either create your own payload pretty much from scratch, so there's no signature for it, because a lot of these antiviruses work off signatures. That's something I can maybe talk about in a future video, but yeah, you'd either have to create your own custom thing or just find some other code out there. And then that's where you gotta be careful, right? Because attackers could have malicious payloads that aren't doing exactly what you think they're gonna do. They might end up hacking you, so you gotta be careful with that kind of stuff. But that's just one example of a way to make it stealthy. You need it more custom code. Don't use the Metasploit out the box kind of payload if you need stealth, if that's of the issue. So yeah, that's basically what I'll say on this topic, and I'll just leave it at that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.